Is Toadscruel a secret OP in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Maybe. But at the very least, it's interesting, and that's what we're going to be breaking down for this video. So if you enjoy it or if it helps in any way, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. So yeah, we have a really weird Pokemon with an even weirder ability. This Pokemon's status moves go last in their priority bracket, but ignore abilities. And that just makes me think, why? Why make this Pokemon at all? Why make R-Fakes? Why hold yourself to arbitrary rules that don't make any sense? So they decided to update Tentacruel by making not Tentacruel, but keeping its Gen 1 outdated stat profile. However, that's too strong because we wanted to make a Mushroom and give it Spore, so you can't have a 100 base speed Spore Pokemon running around, which means we have to kneecap it on the ability. What is that design? It's also something we see with regional variant Pokemon. However, because regional variants exist, why do not regional variant fake Pokemon exist? It doesn't make sense. But regional variants, they have the same stats or the same base stat total. However, that ends up hindering the potential of this new rework of an old Pokemon, and then most of them aren't competitive, and for some reason we don't see updates. I'm pretty sure the game is okay if you give Marowak 30 base stat total. 40. Or you give a lowland Marowak some kind of like crazy stat profile. So there's like care put into some of the things in the game, and then Garganasalt exists. And then they make Dondozo have Unaware. And then they also release a Pokemon like Chien-Pao. And then Golden Go's ability just makes it immune to status moves. Yes, every status move. Yes, that's real text. So it seems like there's this weird balance philosophy within Game Freak's battle testers that they say it's okay to have blatantly broken Pokemon as long as a niche counterpick can exist. But we can't have that niche counterpick become the blatantly overpowered Pokemon, so we just have to create some weird stuff. Like Mycelium Might ignores abilities. It was designed just for Golden Go and Garganasalt because Game Freak knew they were making busted Pokemon with Golden Go and Garganasalt. However, when you kind of break down the matchup, it's still not good for Toadscruel. Garganasalt gets to go first, which means as a 30% chance on Fissure, it can just start setting up and ignore this outdated profile of a Pokemon, or it can also Salt Cure you. And now Toadscruel is getting anti-tanked by a tank anti-tank, even though it's supposed to be the one that's anti-tanking. So there's a lot of weirdness you need to sift through with the Toadscruel. However, does it come out OP on the other side? So this is where I think you actually need to lean into everything Game Freak is doing here, because, oh yeah, Salt Cure, an absolutely disgustingly broken move on one of the most disgustingly broken tanks. Well, Covert Cloak exists, so it's okay, which means you kind of have to do that. You just have to absorb the Salt Cure from Pokemon that just has 100 attack for no reason. This should be like 70. But no, Salt Cure actually does like a surprising amount of damage. So Toadscruel with its 80-65 hit point defense because nothing else got updated about it, even with full EV investment, like that's going to sting, but you have to make it to where now you're not getting burned for damage every turn. So Covert Cloak, and then you Spore it, and then now what? I guess that means you get your Leech Seed off so you can start healing, but if they switch out, you know, it kind of negates the turn right there, and you have to get like Spore predictions. And if you are getting Spore and switch out predictions, it means going last in the priority bracket doesn't mean anything. Foul Play, well, that damage is good, but if it's a tanky Pokemon, it's not going to be really taking too much. So you're kind of just chipping them down on Foul Play, Leech Seed. You also have access to the knockoff, but then we start running out of move slots, because you kind of need Spore and Leech Seed to sustain on this low profile and get the most out of the turns that your opponent is not doing anything. But then what do we put here? It feels like we want to have an offensive move, and then Giga Drain, even if it's a very small amount of damage off of the 80 special attack, it gets Stab, it does something, and it heals us on top of healing us. And because Garganasalt exists, we can't have the leftovers to complement our Leech Seed. Do we also put in the Protect? Like, this is where things get extra weird, because technically we're hitting everything. Grass-type Pokemon, though, we can't Spore them, we can't Leech Seed them, which is kind of lame. So then we're just, like, in an infinite battle. But everything else, like, yeah, you want to protect the Leech Seed, you want to get, like, Spore and Switch predictions and stuff, and you just want to chip away your opponent into nothing. Now, I was also thinking you can put Earth Power here because it's just a good move, and Pokemon don't want to take that damage on top of the Leech Seed. And fortunately, no one runs Tropius or Jumpluff, so you should be okay with this. But then the question is like, okay, so we have some stuff, and we can be annoying. And we have seen it where, even though this is like a frail, sweeping defensive profile, if you go all in on it, you become a slightly not as 2-hit KO'able Pokemon. Let's compare to Pokemon kind of in a similar bracket with Amoonguss. Amoonguss just feels like one of the most tanky Pokemon for no reason, but it's actually got low defense and, you know, not great special defense. 114 hit points is good, but it's not great. It's not incredible. It's not like this is the fattest tank Pokemon ever made, and then it still has the Spore, it still has ways of sustaining with the Synthesis. That's another weird thing. We have a Grass Pokemon, that's a tank, that doesn't Synthesis? And also, if you had it, like, you don't get to feel that 100 speed synthesis. Like, the 100 speed doesn't exist on this Pokemon, arbitrarily, because of Mycelium Might. I guess if you're attacking, like, the Pokemon, you know, the tank Pokemon, you just get to naturally outspeed it. Like, cool, you hit a Skeledirge with a super Earth Power, because pretty much no Pokemon under 90 base speed is putting anything into its speed unless it's Breloom, or very few other Pokemon. So, you are the fastest tank when offense, and you're the slowest tank when using status, which is kind of the tank thing to do. You got some other weird stuff, like you can throw out the Confuse Ray, but it's going last for no reason. Which is kind of weird because Confusion got nerfed a couple generations ago, and there's really nothing else going on here for the Pokemon. So that's why I mean, it's like, yeah, you just become an annoying Leech Seed Pokemon. There's not a lot of those, so is Toadscruel better than any other Leech Seed Pokemon? Let's actually look. So we go Leech Seed, search by that, and we can see, like, the durability of some Pokemon. So Appleton, just going to be a better tank. We have Arbivola, we have Brambleghast, which actually gets to feel its 90 base speed, but has very low tanking stats. We know Breloom's annoying. Go-Goat, getting some pickup. I've been hearing some stories about people doing well with the Go-Goat. It's also just got more durability. And then Wocheen. I don't know what's going to happen when this Pokemon gets loud, but yeah, that looks pretty nasty. 85, 100, 135. You kind of have to Terra off one of the most fragile dual types in the game, but if you do that, and then you, like, Leech Seed sustain forever, it's probably going to be alright. So what this reveals is that even though it looks abysmal for Toadscruel stats compared to Leech Seed Pokemon, it's actually not that terrible, and there is something to work around. Now that also means we have a few other things to go into. So we have the Mycelium Might. This is ignorable abilities, kind of confirming the Good as Gold and Purifying Salt. Also a couple of other things. And then some existing older abilities like Sap Sipper might come into play or something. Multiscale doesn't really get affected by the status. Magic Bounce though. Like if Magic Bounce ever came back, I guess, you know, there could be something. So there was, like, designed for the Toadscruel, but because of that, they had to nerf a lot of it and make it very, very, very niche. Now, even though there's not a lot of documentation about certain Generation 9 interactions, because competitive Pokemon, for the most part, is dead, it's really sad, but that's just the weak society we're in right now. Social media has made everyone fake, and all people want to do is lie, cheat, and steal now because they feel like the system is against them. Therefore, they're allowed to do whatever they want. Now, I know there's going to be people in the comments section saying, well, of course, Quick Claw works with Mycelium Might. I've been using it. But not everyone is using it, especially when this Pokemon is pretty low priority competitively. And the Bulbapedia page doesn't have any information about Mycelium Might Quick Claw, so it's not common knowledge. However, we have Stall. So the Stall ability works the same, and it is like a weird niche interaction, that this doesn't get negative priority, it just goes last in the priority bracket. So it's not like Spore becomes a Trick Room or an Avalanche or something and must move last in the turn. So that kind of shows that since it behaves similarly to the Stall ability, Quick Claw can activate and move you up in the priority bracket. But then that's just no different than being a Quick Claw Moongus or something. So the Quick Claw works to offset your ability 20% of the time, but it's stupid that your ability is holding you back. Now this can matter in very specific matchups. But if you're not going up against those matchups, well, you're just kind of going last 80% of the time just cuz. But then I got an idea. What happens if we subvert the subversive Pokemon and we just say, boom, offense? Mycelium Might doesn't matter because we're not running any status moves. This is actually going to be a sweeping Pokemon. Is there any viability here? Now, depending on the meta, and for the most part, Generation 9 meta is super slow, everything's bulky, everything's trying to just set up and become unkillable, to where, like, 100 speed is going to outspeed a lot. 80 special attack isn't great, but what is great is our coverage. Ground, grass, stab, actually really nice. And then we also have some other coverage moves, just kind of throw at things. So we can hit grass type Pokemon with a Sludge Bomb. We can hit the Dazzling Gleam on a lot with the Earth Power combo. Stab Giga Drain. We actually get to wreck. Unfortunately, we need the specs, so we're locked into a move. But this becomes like a very good revenge Pokemon, or a switch-in into an outspeed into just nuking something out. We have some Terra options as well, and we haven't really talked about the typing. Like, durability-wise, being weak to Flying and Bug isn't terrible. Fire's going to be annoying, and then you get obliterated by Ice types. But, you know, Electric Immunity is nice. Ground Resistance is nice. Rock, doesn't really do too much for us. So, not the best typing for defenses, but again, this Pokemon is made to only go up against 2 Pokemon and then try to find an out against a few others. So, if we're not in those really bad situations and we just have like a bulky Water-type Pokemon to switch in and eat the Flamethrower or the Ice Beam, then maybe Toadscruel can just come in, outspeed because everything's slow, hit that super effective specs hit, and then it starts to matter. And we can see that with damage calculation. So Dondozo, max hit points, max special defense, because screw you, game doesn't make any sense. And uninvested hit point defense versus uninvested like 100 attack Pokemon, we survive the 120 base power move Wave Crash, and then we throw out a Giga Drain that almost heals us for as much damage as we're doing. So we're still two-shotting Dondozo, but very few things can actually one-shot the Dondozo, which means, again, like, with the specs, with the investment, with our coverage, we can just hit things super effective and get some really weird results. Going up against other sweepers, it also gets weird, so the non-stab Giga Drain into a Jolteon, that's a 2-hit KO, and since we have natural special defense bulk, we're immuning the Thunderbolt to begin with, so we can also look at like a different Pokemon for special stab damage, but like a non-stab coverage move from a 110 special attacker with a specs itself is not going to 2-hit KO us. And then we can take a Pokemon like Golden Go, so this is where it gets weird. Okay, so we made a Pokemon who moves last in its priority bracket with Spore, but it can actually status the Golden Go. Oh, it's so different! And then, actually no, all you want to do is just Earth Power the Golden Go and one-shot it. And the Golden Go's not going to expect that. The Golden Go isn't expecting to get outsped by the Toadscruel, which is going to go for the Spore onto the Pokemon that can't be spored, and then Golden Go gets one shot and doesn't even get to play the game. So yeah, this actually might be a cheeky, true anti-meta strategy, because the meta is so ugly in Generation 9, there isn't an anti-meta, because everything that requires an anti-meta strat is just leeching off of the meta. Like, oh, Garganasalt actually wants to go flying Terra type because everything else is going for the fissure, but Garganasalt in itself is meta, so you're not really like doing any crazy anti-meta stuff. But with this, if this is actually just outspeeding a lot of things and finding the super effective hits that matter, and maybe that's also where you do put in the Terra type, it seems like the Earth Power does just fine. So what if you have like Terra Fairy, so you get the Stab, Fairy, Dazzling Gleam, Spec, super effective hit that one-shots everything like the Earth Power is one-shotting everything. Or you can also go into the grass, get that extra damage. Your weaknesses kind of get wonky, but the extra damage on the Giga Drain, that might just be able to heal you up and then win some other matchups as well. But I think you actually go for the Fairy and just get the most ridiculous triple stab options that no other Pokemon really has. So I think this can actually be really strong, but also Quick Claw, Spore, Leech Seed, Stolly, Full Tank, Toadscruel can work just fine because, yeah, if you Mycelium Might the Garganasalt, you're doing good. That could also be like the Covert Cloak because, as we said, Quick Claw works, which is cute, but it doesn't really change too much, especially if you're just treating this Pokemon like a 50 or 20 or 1 speed Pokemon when it's using Spore and Leech Seed, which again is a devastating combo. So you have that, maybe some kind of Terra type, I don't know, to like not really care about your weaknesses as much. So in comes the Ice attack, well, you hit it with the Steel. And actually that means you can maybe just go Terra Water. Pure Terra Water is not bad. So now the Ice and the Fire doesn't bother you, and you're picking up Electric and Grass weaknesses, which aren't the worst things ever. And this thing can exist to get rid of the opponent's Garganasalt, that way your Garganasalt gets to win the game now. Maybe that's just the angle, I don't know. And then one last thing I want to look up, just to make sure we're not being completely fraudulent, is how does Giga Drain access look on speed? Toadscruel. one of the fastest Giga Drain users. And also when it comes to stab, it's like Meowscarada. Unless you're running like special Giga Drain Meowscarada, Toadscruel actually has the best spec stab Giga Drain. And then it also has that ground and the other coverage, which makes it ridiculous. So it has these secret things. They're just kind of hiding and making it stronger than you would expect because Jumpluff gets the outspeed on less damage. Everything that has similar speed for a grass sweeping Pokemon actually looks about as weak as Toadscruel, especially on that special. So fast grass Pokemon don't exist in this dex, and Toadscruel hits hard somehow with an 80 special attack. It's weird. So there we go, guys. Toadscruel isn't fraudulent. Huh. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.